All right. Um, in the ongoing saga of Jeff Sessions and the whole Department of Justice memos, and if you remember, at one time, Sessions mentioned something about his, a subcommittee that would, just kind of look into the current situation with marijuana laws as the federal government as relates to state governments, and kind of just review the laws, review the procedures for enforcing them, and to see what they can do about it. Well, so what's been going on with that, I guess, is what the question is. And we have a story out of the U.S. News today by Stephen Nelson, who basically kind of tried to figure that out. Didn't get very far, though. So, led by an outspoken legalization opponent, Jeff Sessions' Justice Department is reviewing federal marijuana policy with significant changes possibly coming soon. Wonder what that could be. Almost nothing about the review process is publicly known, and the key players in the policy debate have not been contacted. The outcome of the review could devastate a multi-billion-dollar industry and countermine the will of the voters in 8 states if the Obama administration's permissive stance on non-medical sales is reversed. What is known? What is known about this? The review is being conducted by a subcommittee of a larger crime reduction task force that will issue recommendations by July 27th. The subcommittee was announced in April alongside other subcommittees reviewing charging and sentencing guidelines by the federal government. So I did do a video back then about this, and what I surmised then is that, they could possibly rewrite the Cole memo. They could look into, they already have done this thing where, mandatory minimums were kind of taken off the table if at the judge's discretion or at the sentencing phase of a federal case is, to see if somebody was going to get the mandatory minimums applied. And there was different things that they did under Obama, the DOJ, that is, to kind of give the discretion to judges and whatnot. One of them was to make it so they didn't have to include the exact kind of cocaine and the weight of that in the busts, to kind of avoid not automatic felonies, but automatic mandatory minimums of like 20 years for small amounts of cocaine, which was praised at the time, but I was screaming, hey, let's get rid of mandatory minimums. Now you have these guys coming along. They already said, let's get back to the mandatory minimums like we were before. And, if you don't believe me, there's already a case going on in Texas where a Texas man was just sentenced to 24 years in prison for selling marijuana. That just happened. So it's still happening. So we don't really know much about the subcommittee. The task force is co-chaired by Steve Cook, an assistant U.S. attorney in Tennessee who, like Sessions, advocates harsh criminal penalties and a traditional view of drug prohibition, which is like, let's bust everybody. Addicts are criminals, and treatment is basically your last option before going to long prison time, which has got to go. The drug war, it's got to go, man. It's just got to fucking go. So the other co-chair is Robin Thiemann, a longtime department official who works as a deputy assistant attorney general in the Office of Legal Policy. The marijuana subcommittee is led by Michael Murray, counsel to Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, U.S. News has learned. Murray could not be reached for comment, and the Justice Department spokesman Ian Pryor declined to comment on the deliberate process within the department when asked to discuss Murray's role. The department declined to identify other members of the subcommittee, the scope of its policy review, or name outside groups that are being consulted. The lack of information provided and the seemingly secretive nature of the review has proponents of a more lenient marijuana policy concerned. Quote, it's difficult to ascertain any clear information about the subcommittee and how they're working, says Taylor West, Deputy Director of the National Cannabis Industry Association, a trade group representing marijuana businesses, who's been in Washington lobbying pretty hard already this year to try to make not only the Department of Justice, but Congress and basically everybody in the government from the DEA on down to respect the states that are able to enforce laws that they pass and that they deem fit, like marijuana legalization, for example. I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars at stake here, guys, and hundreds of thousands of jobs. These are people that you're about to pull the rug out from under. I don't know about this. So West says the group is focused on building relationships with members of Congress and points to overwhelming public support for respecting state marijuana laws, 73%, according to an April survey by Quinnipiac University. And that's the one where I was like, look, man, you guys can't go in the direction of, that's a video I made about this, saying you can't go back the other way now that the cat's out of the bag. Why? Because we've seen the results. You go to Colorado and, you know, the fucking sky hasn't fallen, so, you know, we'll get into this, the details of what they're trying to do, you know. I mean, you can't say that you need tougher enforcement and you're going to go after legal marijuana businesses when they're taking the crime out of it, and you're just mad because you don't have the ability to arrest people for marijuana, I guess. The Marijuana Policy Project, a large advocacy group that has led many of the successful state legalization campaigns, also said it is not in touch with the subcommittee. That's pretty sad. To me, since they have led the charge in legalizing marijuana all across the country, it makes no sense to not have them at the table. Representative Dana Rohrabacher from California, a leading marijuana reform advocate, requested to meet with Sessions about the issue but was refused, says Rohrabacher spokesman Can Grubbs. Another red flag. Like, okay, they was talking to people like Rohrabacher and other advocates for legalization in Congress and Senate and other people in the government. They were listening to them. They were having meetings with them before. Now they're not. So this is kind of a little bit troubling. It's unclear if agencies without knowing much about the approach the subcommittee has taken, it's hard to say whether we'd expect them to reach out, West says. So far, Sessions' comments have not indicated a lot of willingness to work together toward a common ground. It's unclear if agencies under Justice Department's umbrella, such as the Drug Enforcement Administration, are contributing to the subcommittee. DEA Acting Administrator Chuck Rosenberg told USA News on Tuesday that he is not personally involved in the review and that he didn't know if any of his subordinates are. A DEA spokesman was not immediately able to provide additional information. Marijuana possession for any reason outside limited research remains a federal crime. Most state medical programs are protected from federal enforcement by a congressional spending restriction. Recreational programs are protected only by the 2013 Cole memo that allowed states to regulate sales so long as certain enforcement triggers aren't tripped, such as diversion to other states, distribution to minors, public health consequences, and involvement in criminal groups. All of which anybody can go ahead and investigate and charge people with crimes if found guilty, but meanwhile, if you're just following your state's program of medical or recreational marijuana, you shouldn't have to worry about the feds coming along and kicking the door in. And do we really got money for this shit, feds? Come on. I know Republicans act like there's no such thing as a budget limit when they're in charge. When Democrats are in charge, they're like, oh, no, we can't spend any money. It's funny how they always have money for bombs and they always have money for cops. Never heard of them not having money to hire more cops and bust people for more shit. State legal cannabis business hit the $6.7 billion in estimated sales last year. Cannabis companies are believed to employ more than 100,000 workers, and they collect hundreds of millions of dollars in state and federal taxes. Listening to diverse points of view on marijuana policy is significant because the effects of a regulated state sales are debated, and data can be spliced and to support a point of view. For example, multiple federal and state surveys indicate that teen use of marijuana has not increased since 2012 when states legalized marijuana for adults 21 and older. But use rates have fluctuated for years, so comparing current use to a particularly low use year further in the past can offer a different impression about trends. I guess this article, what he's doing there is he's hinting that that's kind of what they do when they want to say that teen use has gone up. As they go back to the 60s or 50s or something, I don't even know what. But the teen use has always been right around the same number. All right. Diversion to other states is also debated. A law enforcement task force called the Rocky Mountain HIDTA claimed that intercepts of marijuana mail out of Colorado increased following legalization, sourcing the information to the U.S. Postal Inspector Service, but a U.S. Postal Inspector Service spokesman told U.S. News state-specific records did not exist. So I've debunked the Rocky Mountain HIDTA little book they wrote. I've debunked just about every point that they've made in it, and so has many other people, and studies have shown, and, actual numbers have proven that most of the shit that they said was wrong, so we don't believe anything they said. Though state-specific records are not available, national parcel intercepts did increase in 2016 after 2 years of decline. 2 states sued Colorado unsuccessfully, claiming spillover. Mexican drug cartels, meanwhile, have been caught smuggling significantly less marijuana across the southern border, and it's unclear if local increases in drugged driving arrests and marijuana hospital admissions are primarily the result of legalization policies or improved awareness and reporting. I think it's definitely the latter. In April, Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper said Sessions told him the Cole memo was not too far from good policy, but the Attorney General has repeatedly made clear his personal objection to marijuana use and legalization. In March, Sessions scoffed at marijuana medical potential and evidence showing legal access associated with less opioid abuse. The prepared copy of a March speech called Marijuana Use a Life-Wrecking Dependency That's Only Slightly Less Awful Than Heroin Addiction. In May, Sessions said there was too much legalization talk and not enough prevention talk last year. Last year, he famously declared that good people don't smoke marijuana. And that's why we have a section every week called Good People That Smoke Marijuana. And there's lots of those, never-ending list of them. We're just cracking into the surface of it. President Donald Trump said during a president's campaign he does not personally support marijuana legalization but favors state autonomy. Good luck with that. Good luck with anything Trump ever said. Whoever listened to anything he said and believed it is a fucking sucker. So sorry if you're one of those suckers that believed anything Trump ever said. Yeah. So here you have a map that shows the disparaging situation with, look at this patchwork quilt of different laws. Everything from you can still go to prison for just having a joint, and then you got CBD is allowed, but it's really strictly clamped down on in these ones. Recreational over here in the green guys, and then you got this gold medical greenish poop brown looking shit color. This needs to just be one solid green mass that says marijuana, you don't get a fucking ticket for it. So the subcommittee, in my opinion, is a waste of time if it's talking about marijuana, because marijuana laws, when you regulate and allow adult use, then you don't have a big crime problem. It's not an issue for the Department of Justice to worry about anymore. And then maybe they can go after the big fucking fish. Well, they probably won't go after the big fish because they are the big fish.